My name is Anda. I'm part of Scientist Rebellion since 2 years now, and I feel way more useful as a climate activist. I finished my PhD maybe 1 year ago. I did 1 year of postdoc, and even though I had the chance to continue with research, I don't feel useful going on as a researcher because I think it's more important to focus on the climate crisis. And especially as a young person, I feel like I have the energy, and we should all gather this energy and put our brains together to solve this issue. So in the next 5 years, I'd rather do this than go on with basic research. What I have for you is a bit different than a normal speech. I have a climate slam or a science slam in the topic of climate. So, yeah, there we go. I'm gonna start with a question. Why are you here? Because you care. Because the governments don't declare a climate emergency and continue with inconsistent policies that don't align with the climate goal. They even go on extracting more coal. They use tax money for fossil fuel subsidies. They support harmful companies. In 2009, G20 leaders promised. Today, we agreed to phase out and rationalize over the medium term inefficient fossil fuel subsidies while providing the targeted support for the poorest. How many lies will we swallow? How far will we follow? How much more biodiversity loss, climate disasters, and death will we allow? How many more droughts, floods, wildfires, and storms? How much more climate failure until we take off the blindfold? How many UN climate summits until we give activists the deserved credits? Unlike our politicians, who only care about their acquisitions, the youth can't think about their retirement. How can they stay calm and obedient when their future is completely compromised? They should feel demoralized. And you think throwing potato soup at a painting is extreme when the climate and the future cannot be redeemed? You think going to prison for climate justice is a lot to ask? Well, think about the privilege we have. We can boycott without being sentenced to death. Getting fired? Who wants to work for an institution which doesn't want to act? Writing books, signing petitions, peaceful protests, reducing personal emissions, advocating for urgent climate policies, talk and talk about climate abnormalities. We have tried them all. Conventional methods don't work. The people in power won't just step back without a perk. Oil companies drive this disaster, and whoever is complicit helps this happen faster. We're about to cross climate tipping points at 1.2 degrees. And if this happens, ecosphere collapse is guaranteed. Climate scientists have known it all along. And what have they done? Writing more papers with depressing predictions. I can see a big contradiction between their laid-back attitude and the emergency they try to promote. If they go on like this, you better start building your own boat. Instead, scientists should walk the talk, stop, and have a look at the clock. Step down from their ivory tower and push the movement in the last hour. Scientists should use their privilege, knowledge, and respectable reputation to stand by the young generation. Scientists should realize that it's their moral duty to mobilize the people and tell them the fucking truth, that we should panic, act now, otherwise we're doomed.
relaxing and sipping a cup of tea, only caring about the next funding? So-called developed countries didn't mysteriously become rich overnight. They had to win many immoral and bloody fights. We are here because of the sweat and tears of the slaves. And now we put the most affected people to pay, not only with the money that they don't have, but with their lives too. It's called neo-colonial debt trap. Raise your hand if you have heard about Scientist Rebellion. We are academics that go to such an extent to mellow down the torment that we engage in non-violent civil disobedience, or in other words, civil resistance, which has been successful throughout history. Think of the suffragette, of Gandhi's Salt March, of Rosa Parks. Non-violent civil disobedience is the only choice we have left to propel the climate movement to a racing that is proportional to the climate crisis we are facing. We are sick of being ignored. We see that protests become ordinary and boring. Where is the press? We are sick of imploring. We are sick of giving recommendations that are barely taken into consideration and only lead to more frustration. But this can fuel determination. We should get better at science communication and focus on implementation. And step out of the comfort zone, now at the last milestone. So, if you are a scientist, what will you do? Take on the responsibility and join the youth. Embrace radical solidarity for the most affected people who are in the front line and are already meeting a deadline. Use your right to act and show your respect for the people and the planet. There is no research on a dead planet. There is no professorship on a dead planet. There is nothing more important now than to focus our energy and intellect to solve the climate crisis we used to neglect. Show that you care. Show that you cannot bear. Show that you cannot accept the current political decisions that go on with catastrophic emissions. There are about 100,000 politicians, and we are part of the richest 10%. We have the most privileged position. How many more activists we need to succeed? We need you. We need a united academia to join the activist crew. So be loud and join Scientist Rebellion too. Woo!